Glad you came in. And how did you know my business?
I looked on the internet.
What's your name, by the way?
Colin MacLean.
Colin MacLean.
Ve-
Oh, okay.
Very Scottish.
Oh, okay.
But my ancestor
Uh-huh.
was a man by the name of Sir Reginald MacLean,
Wow.
and he grew up on the Isle of Mull.
Oh.
And the family,
A royal family, is it?
a royal family.
Oh, wow.
The Lord still lives in the castle on the Isle of Mull called Duart Castle.
Have you been there?
I haven't, but my brothers have.
Okay.
I have 3 younger brothers. 2 of them have been there to the Scottish castle. One of them knocked on the front door and had afternoon tea with Lady MacLean.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah.
So what was your work before?
I
Was it
became
with Holden or?
I grew up on a big fruit orchard up in the Riverland, and it didn't agree with me.
Okay.
So my mother suggested that I become a school teacher. So, but the sad thing was, but not sad really, sad for my mother, she hated flying because my father was in the Air Force during the Second World War. He flew big bombers.
That's back in Scotland, is it? Or
No, it was here in Australia.
Here. Oh, okay.
Because 4 generations later, after my great-great-great-grandfather came to Australia with his brother, he settled in Sydney. His brother went on to New Zealand. Anyway, my mother made my father leave the Air Force after the Second World War, but I always had this thought of going flying for a living. So my mother made me, after not working out on the property, my mother suggested I become a school teacher, a woodwork school teacher, because I topped the state in woodwork.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, I went to Teachers College in Adelaide, became a woodwork teacher. But the incredible thing was that part of the becoming a woodwork teacher was also learning about metalwork.
Okay.
Fitting and turning, welding, sheet metal work and stuff like that. So I ended up teaching at WHYALLA Tech as a metalwork teacher.
Okay. Wow.
And while I was teaching, I learned to fly.
Wow.
Got my commercial pilot's license.
Oh, wow.
And went flying out of WHYALLA for a company in WHYALLA for a few years until the BHP closed the WHYALLA shipyard and the town died.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's sad.
the flying became much less, so I moved down to Adelaide and flew for various companies out of Adelaide. Mainly down to Kangaroo Island every day on a commuter service. Fantastic life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, fantastic life. And then I tried to make more money somehow because I was so keen on flying. So I, for several years I used to fly up to Birdsville for the week of the Birdsville races.
Oh, wow.
And while there one year, a man came up to me and he said, I can help you organise all the customers on your joy flights around the Birdsville area, and I can organise the customers for you. So he did a very good job that particular day.
Oh, wow.
All the customers rolling up, he collected all the money, gave it to me at the end of the day, and then the very next year he suggested that I could start up a fishing safari company up the top of Cape York in Queensland.
Well, from flying to fishing.
Yeah. So it was his idea that he would set up the camp at the top of Cape York, and I would fly all the customers up to Cape York, and they'd go fishing for a week, and then I'd fly them back, and then next week take another group up. That worked out for a little while until he got sick, and I sent him back home to Ipswich, just out of Brisbane, and then I came home for a fortnight to organise things. I had a couple of weeks off up there in Queensland, and he found out that I was back in Adelaide for a couple of weeks. So he went up and talked the Aborigines into cleaning everything out of my camp, and he did a con job on me. It sent me bankrupt.
Oh, that's sad.
So, yeah, very bad. It was very bad. So, because of all the stress, I got diabetes. And there's a family history of diabetes on my father's side. So I got diabetes, which meant that I lost my commercial pilot's license. So I couldn't fly anymore.
So that leads you to doing the cars and things?
Well, the funny thing was that a friend of mine that I used to, on my days off when I wasn't away flying, a friend of mine had a hire car company doing wedding cars. So he used to ask me to drive for him now and again. So I was looking for a job, having no commercial pilot's license anymore. So I asked him if he had any work, and I ended up driving. I bought my own car, and he set me up in his company, and I drove professionally as a chauffeur for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Until about 3 or 4 years ago when I retired.
How old are you now?
I'm now 80.
80. Oh.
In all that time of flying and professionally driving, I was always a car enthusiast. Always loved motor racing and everything like that. So way back in my young single days in WHYALLA, I found a very old Jaguar on a farm and bought that for a few $100s. I never ever got to fully restore it, but then I bought an E-type Jaguar. 2 years later, I rode it off at great speed, unfortunately. Rode it off, going far too fast. So I went looking for another one and bought another Jaguar called an XK150. I had that for many years. Unfortunately, I got divorced. And my ex-wife made me sell the car to pay her out. And I had already got another Jaguar. I had 4 Jaguars at that time when I got divorced. And then I found this car. And then one of my brothers gave me the old BMW that I'm still restoring. And so life goes on. And so that's my life.
Oh, wow. And
thank you for giving this for free.
Oh,
this is wonderful.
That's all right.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for your interesting story.